I don't look this young, grow an old beard, and I'm not very colorful, so I guess I need to make up with the stuff what I'm talking about. You only understand where we go in the future if you know where we're coming from. So I have basically prepared this short presentation in 3 chapters. The first chapter, I want to give you my idea, my vision of how the whole thing started. So first we're going to do a fast rewind, and we go into the 70s. Then, as the world is full of designer hotels these days, I would like to explain you what from our point of view makes the difference between a contemporary hotel and a true member of the design hotel community. And then, last but not least, which I think is maybe the most important thing, is where are we going in the future? Everybody wants to know that. And I would like to share with you our idea of luxury, because it ultimately always has to do in one way or the other with luxury. And luxury has become such an overused term, the same as design hotels and the same as many other terms when they become really fashionable and successful. So I think everybody needs to make up his own mind what is luxury for him as a person or for the company he's representing. And I'm gonna share with you something which is very close to my heart, is the 5 stages of luxury. But as I always like to know who am I talking to, I would like just to know who from you is from the hotel industry. Hands up. That's a lot, that's good. Travel and tourism. Okay. Countries representative. Okay, good. So we're very strong in hospitality. So how did this whole thing start? There were 2 young New Yorker guys, very successful in the 70s, who redefined the nightclub. Studio 54 became the mother of all nightclubs in one way, and it was founded by 2 gentlemen, Steve Rubell and Ian Schrager. The studio was open from 1977 to 1981. Then they had to close. The gentleman had to go right to jail because the whole success of the studio and the people, I think they surrounded themselves. And normally, if Maria would have given me 45 minutes, I would have shown you a nice 2-minute video about the studio. So they surrounded themselves with very interesting and very colorful people. And I think it went up in their head. That's why they were at one stage in a TV show and talked about how easy it is not to pay taxes. So they were more or less picked up right out of the TV show and sent to jail. 2 years later, they came out and they started with the first real design hotel. But in between, I think what is very important, MTV went online. And with MTV, the music, it was the first music revolution. I think the second music revolution was when Steve Jobs launched the iPad and iTunes, but the first music revolution was really when MTV went live, because this really changed the way we were receiving music, and in particular, and I think this has been one of the fundamental drivers of the success of the design hospitality, it was a new use culture. So people were going out in a different way. They were looking for different kinds of entertainment. And in 1984, after the Rubell and Schrager were released from jail, they came out and they opened their first hotel, which was the Hotel Morgans on Madison Avenue, designed by famous designer, the Grand Dame of Design, Andre Putman. Andre Putman just died this year at the age of 80-something, but she really left a really, really strong mark in the industry. Some of her icons which she designed after the Morgans was the Wasserturm Hotel in Cologne, and also the in-flight cabin of the Concorde for Air France. 1987, Condé Nast Traveler was born. So can you imagine? Now we're online, we're having access to all these different travel blogs and design blogs and architecture blogs. Only 1987 was the real first travel magazine with a real relevance went into the newsstands. And it's always good, when I go into new countries to measure, let's say, the readiness for the country to produce strong design icons. It's always good to go to a newsstand. When you go into the newsstand and see what's available there, and I remember in these days, in Germany, there were two interior design magazines. One was called Schöne Wohnen, the other one was Ambiente. That was it. Go to a newsstand today, and you have to walk 3 meters to pass by design magazines. So in 87, Condé Nast Traveler went online. 1988, the first boutique resort was born. Very interesting gentleman, and one of my, I would call him heroes. He was a real idol for me. Adrian Secker, together with Bob Burns and George Raphael, founded Regent Hotels. Regent then later was sold to Four Seasons. After Secker got out of Regent, he started a new group, which was the Aman Resorts, and the first was the Amampuri, opened 1988 in Phuket, in Thailand. At the same time, Schrager and Rubel started their second coup, and they found out of their circle around Andy Warhol's factory, and in the relation with André Putman, a young, very unknown French designer, now everybody knows him, Philippe Starck. Philippe Starck in these days has only built one public space, which was the famous Les Bains Douches. It was like the pendant to the Studio 54 in Europe, one of the best nightclubs Paris ever had. Starck, a very interesting character, and one of his missions was to democratize design. Who does not know what this is? You don't know what it is? Who want to say, what is this? What is this? You know what it is? No? You didn't lift your hands. You're cheating. This is the famous lemon squeezer, okay? Who bought this thing? You're all too young. You're right. Maria, I had it. I only tried to squeeze the lemon once because the juice was all over my kitchen, but not in the glass. But it was a real icon of the 80s. And it was one of the pieces, it was a collaboration with Starck and Alessi. And Alessi became a very, very important company at the end of the 80s, early 90s when it came to design. Royalton was doing so good, Starck was pushing for the democratization of design. He wanted to make it affordable for everybody. So with the opening of the Paramount Hotel in 1989 and late 89, early 1990s, the new Grand Hotel, in a way, was born because they were selling the rooms for $99. And this thing became like the hottest thing on the planet, and the media really picked up on it. I was at that time organizing raves, was working a lot with DJs, and in 1990 there was a very important music seminar which was called the New Music Seminar. It was the alternative music trade show, okay? And it was held at the Paramount, and I was in charge with my little travel agency, which I opened after the flower shop closed. And I was in charge of bringing the German delegation to New York. So on the one side, my passion for design, a little bit of my business in travel and event production and music event production all came together. And I saw these people, and I saw, where will these people stay one day? I mean, they're, in a way, definitely too young and too avant-garde to stay in a classical, luxury hotel. And they're far too intellectual to stay in a cookie-cutter chain hotel. So for me, it was obvious that there is something new about to begin. 1990, the really launch of the internet. And since then, the world has changed so dramatically, I don't need to tell you that. The whole idea came to Europe, it came to Paris with the Montalembert, it came to London with the Halkin, and it came to Barcelona with the Claris. All of the hotels you've seen, we have been working with them without knowing what the real business model would be. So we were starting as a PR and a marketing company, and we were offering these hotels alternative marketing solution outside of the box. So we didn't come to an ITB, but we would go to the MTV Music Awards, or we would go to the Première Vision in Paris, or we would go to the Salone Mobile in Milan, or the furniture show in Cologne. And this is what they liked. It took us 5 years really to figure out how the business model really worked, but 1993, sorry for the two there, 1993, this was the view of my new office then, after I moved from Augsburg to California, and I started with a partner design hotels in Sausalito. Then it happened really, really fast. 1996, Tyler Brûlé launched Wallpaper, and I think he created the term lifestyle, or the people around, the media around created the term lifestyle. Before, you had a magazine which was focused on interior design or on fashion or on travel, but Wallpaper was like the first magazine which kind of threw everything together. So in a wrap-up, it was 10 years with this new youth culture, creating this term lifestyle and creating, which more or less, I think lifestyle is a concept and everybody needs to fill it with your own content. So there is no such thing as the lifestyle, okay? Everybody has a different one. But more and more people, now in the 90s, they were looking for the same kind of restaurants and bars and clubs, and then, of course, hotels. 1996, also something very important happened for the design decade, which was, the Apple decade, more or less, or more than a decade in the meantime, when Steve Jobs went back to Apple, and with Jonathan Ive starting to produce the first really iconic computers. If anybody in 1996 would have told you that you will go on a Sunday to a computer store to listen to somebody how to use a system, you would have called him an idiot, okay? If you go now on a Sunday to Soho, to the Mac store, or any Mac store in the world, it's an auditorium like this and it's full like this. So you need to take all of this stuff in consideration to really understand what has happened. It was not just a guy putting a chair in a lobby, okay? It was a very holistic movement, and it was a socio-demographic phenomenon, all based on this new youth culture starting in the 80s. So with Barry Sternlight being the first CEO of a global chain, Starwood, he in a way copied what Schrager and Rubel did very successfully and started with the first W in New York. This, though, opened the door because Sternlight was very well received by Wall Street and by the banking industry because he was one of the few guys who really made an interesting amount of money out of the hospitality. So it opened the doors for more people to get access to money and to build their own dreams. Yeah, what I said. So design was populating, it was coming all over, and with the internet, more and more sources where you could learn about, and it was just logic that all the other chains will move into the same thing. There are hundreds of hotels which apply for membership in design hotels every year. The important thing, though, is you need to have a formula. Just having contemporary furniture in your lobby doesn't make it. So what is this formula? We have been working over the last 20 years constantly analyzing where we're coming from, and I would like to wrap it up for you in a short way. So it all starts with the concept. When you have the concept, then after that you go into design and architecture. In many times it is the different way around, where people have a personal taste and they like a certain designer or a certain style, and they start with this, but at the end it might not match the concept. So the concept is absolutely crucial. Architecture, design, then the brand, how does it smell, how does it sound, how does it talk? Ultimately, local integration, and this is the neighborhood approach, becomes a more and more and more important thing. Then, when we're looking into the future, and I will show you this in the 5 stages of luxury, we're talking about corporate, social, and environmental responsibility, which will be the new design. So, a couple of examples. What does concept mean? I have three hotel groups here, brought them. One is Ferndale Group. So Ferndale, very successful, maybe one of our flagship hotel groups based in London. Kit Camp reinvented the British style and made it very eclectic, mixed with lots of art, and gave it a contemporary twist. So it's based on rich colors. If you would see all these different pieces in different rooms, and you would say, you need to take them and need to put them in one, and you would say it's impossible. But she has the talent, and she really finds the right things and put them in a very harmonic way together. Very iconic brand. Second, Osbes, their idea was to reinvent old palaces. The wealthiest family and the owner of Corte Inglés in Spain. So they had in their private real estate portfolio 5 palaces in Granada, in Córdoba, Alicante, Valencia. And looking into what to do with it, they decided to build a new brand of hotels. They got some specialists out of the Spanish hotel industry, and they were creating these absolutely stunning places. This is a Palazzo in Mallorca, the Maricel, Palacio de los Patos. So another example, so we have one with one kind of a formula. So wherever you go through these hotels, which I just showed you, they have a similar approach. But we have a very interesting client in Mexico, is the Grupo Habitat. They always ultimately look into the neighborhood, and every hotel looks different. Still, if you travel through their hotels, you would always kind of go in and feel that there's the same brain behind it. This is their hotel in Condesa in Mexico City, Purificadora in Puebla, the Hotel Boca Chica in Acapulco, and one of the founders' grandfather's mansion in Veracruz, also Mexico. Why is this whole thing so important? If you go back to this, you have great stories. People love stories. 5 years ago, we started to talk about our owners more than about the rooms. And the owners were telling us, and through our channels, the stories, how they got engaged, how they found the hotel, what is their passion, what is driving them. And there is one of the most famous trend forecasters in the world, Lee Edelcourt, and she's saying, we need more fiction, more stories, we need more eccentrics, and we need more true individuals. If you come to Hall 9, you go through it, I think it's the Champions League of hospitality in the world, and it's in one way really sad to look at all these stands, and they're all in a way kind of the same. Okay? So I think we should learn all a little bit from the luxury industry and take more elements on how a brand like Louis Vuitton or how a brand like PPL are running their conglomerates with different brands. So what is the most important thing looking into the future? Man, 30 minutes is really tough, Maria. 20 years and the future in 30 minutes. Okay, 5 stages of luxury. Okay. So, everybody has its own definition of luxury. Okay? Ours is the freedom of choice. Okay? I think the most important thing is if you have the freedom of choice means by intellectual property, resources, and access to information. This matrix was created by the Future Laboratory, which is a trend scouting system. 5? Good. 1 minute per stage of luxury. And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures. But we start here on the lower left. Acquisition and value to intellectual and poetic. The luxury market at the moment, even though we're in a crisis, is still growing at double-digit numbers. Okay? Why is it that? The emerging markets are purchasing the classical luxury goods we have been surrounded for the last 15, maybe 20 years. So, at this early stage, a Louis Vuitton, okay, everybody is gonna buy maybe a little belt or a little wallet or a bag, So as the Brazilian, the Chinese, the Russian, the Indians, all the emerging market is moving in one way into this first stage of luxury. So the people who have been surrounding themselves with these products, they want to get out of it in a way, because they want to show a difference. I am always using one example. Maybe the Athlon is a very good example. And you see this when you go into the lobby of a Four Seasons or a Kempinski hotel. You will see a lots of people coming from the emerging markets. Okay? So it's obvious, it's bold. You find brands like Louis Vuitton, like Montblanc, or Kempinski. The more discernment traveler, okay, is looking now for brands where he doesn't want to show the logo, but he wants to know about the heritage of the brand. Okay? This is why Hermès became, I think, in the last 5 years, really successful. This is why Louis Vuitton is starting an online magazine which is called Nowness, and it doesn't even say Louis Vuitton. And they're even writing about Prada, even though it's not part of their conglomerate. Okay? So the information in the second stage of luxury becomes more important than the product. It's a great chance for old traditional brands to relaunch. If you follow what Dunhill is doing, go to their website. Absolutely phenomenal. We have just added a hotel to our portfolio, which opened here in December last month. Is the Stewie Hotel in Berlin. So, second stage of luxury, or one more example which makes it maybe very visual for you. The Louis Vuitton store, which we just seen in London, is completely different than the one in Beijing. Okay? In Beijing, they still would invite the local society for a champagne cocktail. In London, they invite them for a reading in the 5th floor in the library. This has great potential and is a huge opportunity for all of us in hospitality, because the third stage is really all about emotion and experience. And there are new brands coming in. If you have the chance to go to Potsdamer Straße, there is a phenomenal shop. It's called Mulkudis. It's maybe one of the best shops in the world. The guy who opened the shop was before that running museum shops. And the way he is showcasing and displaying his goods is more like in a museum. So it's a very sophisticated way. And there are more and more brands coming from the second stage of luxury, moving in the third stage of luxury. A hotel which definitely fits the mold is maybe the 25 Hours Hotel in Hafen City. And if you have time this afternoon at the CEO panel, there will be Christoph Hoffmann, who is the CEO of 25 Hours, who will be talking about. Same guy, Peng Lo, from the unlisted collection from Singapore, also in the same panel. So, this is what has happened in the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years. So where we're going in the future, we added 2 stages. One is the responsible and aware stage. This becomes absolutely crucial. Merci, for instance, is a shop in Paris which donates out of every sale money to different organizations who support youth and child education. The owners of the place have made a fortune with selling baby clothes, so they decided to give something back. And we see this in all kinds of areas in many, many different industries. Aesop, a cosmetic company from Australia, totally sustainable, and of course more and more hotels going into that sector. Parallel, upstairs, downstairs, upstairs, is the CSR Day, which also shows how important it is. We are very proud to work with a partner from Australia, which is the world-leading certification in corporate social environmental responsibility. It's a company out of Brisbane, Australia, and it's called EarthCheck. If you are interested in this, I'm more than happy to invite you to our booth where you can meet some of their representatives. And ultimately, the 5th stage is, I think, if you had the chance and the resources to buy all that product from 1 to 5, at one point you have your cell phone and your BlackBerry, and you're in this totally 24-hour loop, then who you have lost on that journey is yourself. This is why we find this unbelievable boom in yoga studios and this unbelievable demand in this alternative travel destination. Nature is key, okay? You will also have the chance to listen today to Daniel Kilgren. He's a phenomenal gentleman from Italy who has reproduced the caves in Matera in south of Italy. It's bare, simple, and we are seeing more and more application coming from that field. So, how the travel landscape has changed dramatically. We're coming from a generation in the 80s which were having lots of parties. We went through these 5 stages. I'm not saying stage 1 is any worse than stage 5. They're all equal. If you have a hotel, if you have a natural setting, you know, I think you have a phenomenal chance to build something really exciting and something really new if you think about 4th and 5th stage. It's almost like McKinsey would say blue ocean. There's very little in there, and it's very easy. It's not very intellectual, it's not so easy, because the challenge is to leave things out and not to overdo it. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a wonderful day.
Klaus, if you like, you can get 2 more minutes for questions and answers.
Flowers back to you. Anybody a question? Maybe I was talking too fast for the last 5 minutes. Thank you. Have a good day today. Thank you, guys.